Good morning and welcome to the Conference on Accessibility, Availability and Affordability of Medicines and Medical Devices for a Stronger and Resilient European Union, hosted under the Portuguese presidency of the Council of the European Union, the Portuguese Ministry of Health in collaboration with Infarmed, National Authority of Medicines and Health Products. We will begin the opening session with the Portuguese Minister of Health, Marta Temido. The Minister has the floor.
Dear the WHO Director General, Tedros Ghebreyesus, dear Commissioner Kyriakidis, dear representatives from the Commission, the European Parliament and the EMA, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. It is my pleasure to address you today as Portugal holds the rotative presidency of the Council of the European Union. Allow me to welcome you to the 3A's conference. It is an honor for Portugal to welcome you all to this event in a moment in which Europe is facing crucial challenges relating to its strategic autonomy concerning the accessibility and sustainability of medicines and medical devices. We believe this conference is an essential moment in the pursuance of the set of priorities defined by the Portuguese presidency in the field of health. This is truly one of the flagship conferences under the Portuguese presidency. In that sense, we rely on your expertise and collective knowledge to contribute to the fruitful discussions held throughout this meeting with view to delivering concrete proposals for the reinforcement of Europe's standing in this crucial domain. I am sure this conference will serve as an inclusive platform for insightful debates, bringing together expert voices from different backgrounds on the challenges the health sector will be facing in the coming years. The past year has further underlined the importance of health, specifically of medicines and medical devices, in the day-to-day lives of European citizens. These difficult months have proven that health threats know no borders. For that precise reason, their handling requires increased cooperation, expertise, and solidarity. Today, it is a socially accepted fact that we must increase our cooperation in this field at a European and global level. Indeed, as we continue to prioritize health, we will steadily but surely ensure better standards of quality of life for our citizens. As the European Union continues to focus its efforts in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic in the strongest possible way, it is crucial not to let initiatives such as this one be underestimated, as they play an essential role in our collective ambition of building a European Health Union. In fact, despite the significant accomplishments of the past decades in improving the European quality of life and investing in our health systems, this pandemic has made it abundantly clear that although we are on the right path, there is still much work to be done in order to mitigate evident social inequalities in the access to health care. Therefore, I am certain this conference will serve as an important contributor towards that goal. The topics under discussion, the expertise of our speakers, and the interest and commitment of everyone who is joining us for these sessions serve as an encouraging signal for Europe's pledge to work together in building a better future. Finally, allow me to express my gratitude to Infarmed and to all who have contributed to the organization of this conference for their effort, availability, and expertise. Earlier this year, when the Portuguese presidency of the Council of the European Union had the opportunity to present its priorities in the field of health, the issue of equitable access to and availability of medicines and medical devices was placed at the forefront. Through this policy choice, we recognized the need to tackle one of the most urgent challenges facing Europe: inequalities in the access to healthcare. We have elected to do so through a three-pronged approach. By reinforcing Europe's strategic autonomy in the manufacturing process of medicines and medical devices, and working to find concrete policy options to address this issue, by assessing the state of our citizens' access to medicines, medical devices, and overall treatment options, and by looking at the actual sustainability of our health systems. The past few months have made it clear that it is essential to promote a greater European strategic autonomy regarding ready access to medicines and medical devices through the reinforcement of Europe's production and supply capacity. We may not allow Europe to become increasingly dependent on third countries to satisfy its basic access needs for medicines and medical devices. It is crucial that Member States work together to ensure that Europe resumes its position as a worldwide leader in access to healthcare, not a follower. The pandemic has particularly underlined the urgency of making sure European citizens have ready access to medicines and medical devices. In that light, broadening cost-effective and equitable access to healthcare, and in particular to innovative health technology, is a key tool in pursuing the ambitious project of creating a true European health union. Furthermore, it is essential that we engage in these goals whilst ensuring that long-term sustainability of our health systems, which continue to be exemplary models of access to healthcare. Sustainability concerns should not stand in the way of our efforts to improve our health systems by promoting transparency in policies throughout the value chain, particularly relating to pricing, regional cooperation, and effective efforts to share relevant information. The definition of the priorities addressed also resulted from the work developed by our German colleagues during the German presidency of the Council of the European Union, coupled with the abundant wealth of information the pandemic crisis has revealed in the past year. Our collective challenge has been made clear. We must work together to build a stronger European Union and reinforce our citizens' trust in the European social model by promoting a European Union rooted in the principles of solidarity, convergence, and cohesion. We want a strong and robust Europe, able to act in a coordinated way when responding to future crises akin to the COVID-19 pandemic. That context served as our stepping stone in the organization of this conference in order to bring forth these crucial issues to the forefront of our response to collective challenges. Indeed, this conference is the appropriate place for a structured debate to occur between all involved parties, through a collaborative approach, and deliver concrete solutions that may up the standards for quality of life of European citizens. The Presidency's work and commitments in the field of health have also been closely linked with the steps recently taken by the European Commission, namely through the adoption of the Pharmaceutical Strategy for Europe in November of 2020. This document is of the utmost importance as it integrates regulatory and scientific strategic aspects in the area of medical devices. The Portuguese presidency has also succeeded in obtaining a mandate to negotiate the Health Technology Assessment Regulation, which had been deadlocked for the past 3 years. The next step, negotiating with the European Parliament, is currently underway. It is our belief, when at least approved, this regulation will carry significant advantages to patient care whilst also bolstering European manufacturers in the field of health technology. Furthermore, throughout the remaining months of the Portuguese presidency, the expansion of the mandate of the European Medicines Agency will also be top of mind. We must not forget what the pandemic has made clear, that we must act together and not apart if we are to achieve the best results in the name and in service of European citizens. Together, we can contribute to building a fairer, more resilient, equitable and cohesive Europe, and thereby reinforce the trust of our citizens in our institutions, agencies and common guiding principles. I wish you all a very fruitful meeting. I would like to thank once more the participation of the WHO Director General, Commissioner Stella Kyriakides and MEP Dolores Montserrat. Thank you very much for your time.
I shall now give the floor to Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, Director General of the World Health Organization.
Your Excellency, Minister Marta Temido, Your Excellency, Commissioner Stella Kyriakides, Your Excellency, Dolores Montserrat, distinguished guests, dear colleagues and friends. Thank you for the invitation to address you today on this very important topic at this very important time. Access to medicines and medical products has always been a central element of health. The COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated that even more vividly. In the earliest days of the pandemic, the availability of personal protective equipment for health workers was a major challenge, as you remember. We have also had significant problems with the accessibility of diagnostics and medical oxygen, which is costing lives, as we are now seeing in India. And as you know, inequitable access to vaccines is one of the defining challenges of the pandemic. So far, more than 1 billion doses have been administered globally, but 82% of those have been in high and upper middle income countries, while just 0.3% have been administered in low income countries. That's the reality. The COVID-19 crisis has exposed the urgent need for more resilient health systems that can ensure uninterrupted availability, affordability, and equitable access to medicines and medical technologies. Medicines and medical devices are essential at every stage of the continuum of care, from prevention to diagnosis, treatment, monitoring, rehabilitation, and palliative care. Yet, all too often, these products are unavailable or unaffordable to those that need them. Even when medicines are available, associated medical devices are often not. For example, very few countries provide test strips as part of diabetes care programs to help monitor blood glucose in people who need insulin. An estimated 1 billion people globally and 44 million in the European Union need assistive products such as wheelchairs, glasses, hearing aids, and white canes, but only 10 to 15% have access to these life-enabling products. The challenges are many. Inadequate investment in research and development, lack of effective policies for selecting health products, inadequate financing and expenditure management, weak regulatory capacity, and insufficient resources for procurement and supply chain management, to name a few. For decades, WHO's pre-qualification program has played a major role in shaping global market dynamics and improving the accessibility and affordability of medicines, biosimilars, and diagnostics. WHO also supports countries in the selection of medicines and other health products with the WHO model list of essential medicines, the essential in vitro diagnostic list, the priority medical devices list, and the priority assistive devices list. Let me leave you with 3 specific areas in which WHO believes we need action. First, closer collaboration. WHO already works with the European Medicines Agency, national regulators, and many other partners to improve the accessibility, availability, and affordability of medicines and medical products. We need to expand these efforts to close the gaps and overcome the limitations of current incentive models for research and development. WHO welcomes the EU's Pharmaceutical Strategy for Europe and the EU for Health program that will finance strategies aimed at reducing the fragmentation and vulnerability of medical product supply chains in Europe. Second, consistent nomenclature. WHO welcomes the European initiative on a nomenclature for medical devices that is transparent and available to all users in all member states. This is one of the initiatives that's being considered as part of discussions about global nomenclature. Third, transparent pricing. Increasing transparency is a key strategy to promote competition and expand access to generic and biosimilar medicines, improve and coordinate pricing and procurement policies across borders, and ensure affordability. Creating an environment for a competitive and efficient European pharmaceutical industry is of strategic interest for public health, not only in Europe, but globally, to stabilize global supply chains and deliver quality-assured products. The pandemic has shown that health is not a luxury for the few, but a human right and the foundation of social, economic, and political stability. If that's the case, we must seize this moment to work towards a world in which all people have access to all the medicines and medical products they need, where and when in them. Obrigado. I thank you.
I yield the floor to the European Commissioner for Health and Food Safety, Stella Kyriakidis.
Good morning everyone, dear Prime Minister Costa, Dr. Tedros, Minister Temido, Chair, ladies and gentlemen. 2020 will be remembered for the worst global health crisis in modern times. It will go down in history as the year when we responded to our citizens' calls to put in place the first building blocks of a stronger, a healthier, and a more resilient European Health Union. Availability, accessibility, affordability of medicines and medical devices are a major part of that effort. So I am really delighted to be able to join today's very important event. And let me begin by thanking the Portuguese presidency for the focus on this crucial issue. We have listened to citizens and we have learned the lessons of the past year. We are building the foundations of a stronger European Health Union in which 27 countries will work together to detect, to prepare, and to respond collectively to cross-border health crises. The European Health Union will equip the EU and its member states to better prevent and address future pandemics, to improve the resilience of Europe's health system, and hence it will enable us to protect the health of our citizens. Crucially, it will also strengthen the mandate of the European Centre of Disease Prevention and Control and the European Medicines Agency. It will be able to monitor shortages and medical devices during crisis. In November last year, we put forward an ambitious set of proposals to create a patient-centered, future-proof and crisis-resilient pharmaceutical system in the form of the Pharmaceutical Strategy for Europe. It draws on lessons that we have learned from the COVID-19 crisis, on the messages that we need to take, but also primarily addresses the long-standing challenges of availability, accessibility, and the affordability of medicines across the EU. Our starting point is well known. We are experiencing a period of rapid change and innovation, but medicines are often unaffordable or unavailable for those who need them most, the patients. The objective is clear. The strategy needs to support patient-driven innovation, security and continuity of supplies, resilient supply chains, reduction of systemic shortages, availability and affordability. No patient in Europe should be deprived of the medicines that he or she needs. The failures of markets should not be the failures of our health systems and ultimately should not fail patients. The reform of our pharmaceuticals legislation in 2022 will be the centerpiece of this effort to improve the system of incentives and obligations, taking into account the relationship with intellectual property rights, to address aspects that impede the competitive functioning of markets, to adapt to cutting-edge products, scientific developments, and technological transformation, to provide simplification, flexibility, and the streamlining of approval procedures, to improve the transparency and reinforce oversight of the supply chain, strengthen the environmental risk assessment requirements, and safeguard the quality of medicines and ensure preparedness for new manufacturing technologies. And last, but certainly not least, as we have discussed many times with Dolores, who I see, to enhance the security of supply and address shortages of medicines through specific measures, including stronger obligations for supply. So accessibility, affordability, and affordability are basic filters through which we need to ensure that the legislative framework is conducive to innovation that address the needs of patients, of professionals, and of health systems. The proposal for a regulation on health technology assessment is another essential component of a new cooperation framework on medicines at EU level. I am glad that we're now progressing effectively towards its adoption and that we can benefit all by providing high-quality evidence to support national decisions. In addition to these legislative actions, the strategy also provides a framework and resources to develop further cooperation between national authorities. In addition, these legislative actions, the strategy also provides a framework and the resources to develop further cooperation between national authorities. This will help us to address shortages, to discuss pricing, payment, cost effectiveness, and procurement policies, strengthen the resilience of global supply chains, and advance harmonization at global level. Now, let me say a few words on medical devices, which play a fundamental role in the delivery of innovative healthcare solutions. We are now quickly approaching the 26th of May, the date of application of the medical device regulation. The medical device sector experiences and continues to experience rapid development, and we need to evolve with it. Remember, the new regulation will be replacing the directive that had been in place since the early 90s. The new regulation and the new in vitro medical device regulation will be improving safety and create fair market access for manufacturers and healthcare professionals. Undoubtedly, the implementation of the new legislation is going to be a very challenging process, requiring joint efforts from the Commission, the Member States, and all relevant economic operators. But we have already advanced substantially. We now have 20 notified bodies designated under the medical device regulation. We have recently opened the expert panels, which play an essential role in the assessment of some high-risk devices. And we have adopted additional key implementing acts. We're also making progress in the development of the European medical device database. At the same time, we need also to say that there are important challenges which remain. The implementation of the in vitro medical devices regulation is not as advanced as we would have expected, and EUDAMED will not be fully functional at the time of application. The absence of EUDAMED makes the application more burdensome, but it does not prevent us from applying the legislation. We are working closely with national experts to speed up the development of this key feature. And the application of the medical device regulation is the beginning of safer medical devices in the EU. But it is not going to be the end of the journey. And we will continue to leverage and improve the full potential of the framework for years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, these actions, whether legislative or not, will help improve the availability, affordability, and accessibility of medicines and medical devices. But their success can only depend on collaboration and coordination. This has been possibly the most powerful message that we have all picked up in the last year. We have worked closely with WHO, with Parliament. I see Dr. Tedros there, and we have seen the power of collaboration and coordination. And we can see how we can solve problems, and we can reinforce the weaknesses in our health systems when we combine political will, when we combine that with trust and with technical expertise. So we'll be preparing and implementing these actions together between the Commission, the European Parliament, and the Member State authorities. And we're going to be mobilizing the different groups and cooperation mechanisms to ensure that we can achieve our shared objectives. Today's event is an important part of this process. This is exactly the type of multi-stakeholder debate that we need to improve collaboration to issues that concern accessibility, affordability, and availability. And more broadly, it's an excellent opportunity to demonstrate our commitment to a healthier, more resilient, and more equal European Union, because this is what we owe to our citizens. Thank you.
I give the floor to a member of the European Parliament, Envy Committee representative and rapporteur for the European Pharmaceutical Strategy, Laure Montserrat.
Thank you very much. It is an honor and a pleasure to be with you for this topical and timely conference organized by the Portuguese Presidency and the Minister. And it is an honor to be with our Commissioner Kyriakides and with the Director General of WHO and all the guests. MB Chair Pascal Canfin has kindly asked me to speak on behalf of the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety Committee for this intervention, as I'm the rapporteur for the European Parliament initiative report on a pharmaceutical strategy for Europe. And in the same time, I'm the co-chair of the Health Working Group of the ENVI Committee, together with Portuguese MEP Sara Terdas. Reflection on the future of the Union is at a key moment, and it is clear that the pandemic has propelled health at the very top of our agenda, together with environmental and climate issue, not least because of the connection between the two dimensions. Building a European Union of health to strengthen health policy and guarantee high-quality healthcare and equal access to medicines to all the European citizens also features in our debate in the Conference on the Future of Europe. In relation to the three A's of this conference, accessibility, availability, and affordability of medical products, I would like to point out three aspects, which in my view are key. First, a defense of the European COVID-19 vaccines strategy. Secondly, I would like to reflect on the most topical legislative actions that we have taken or are about to take in this legislature. And finally, I would like to briefly remind you of our recommendations in the report on the shortage of medicines and give you some peek previews on my own draft report on a pharmaceutical strategy for Europe. First point, the European vaccines strategy. We had a difficult start. Many have criticized the European strategy for vaccine, but the Union has fulfilled its duties. After less than 2 years since the beginning of the pandemic, we have four new vaccines produced in Europe authorized, distribute and inoculate free to all European citizens, something not even possible to dream of last year. 29 million vaccines will be delivered to member states just this week, a record. The pace of vaccinations is accelerating everywhere in the European Union, and we will have 70% of the European population vaccinated for the summer. I'm convinced that when we will look back at the European Union performance on the vaccines, there will be a positive story to tell and a wider lesson to learn. And in the same time, European Union, we are participating and leading with the WHO with this COVAX platform. That it's very important because we need to help and to arrive at the vaccines all around the world. The second point, Europe has shown great resilience and strength during the COVID-19 pandemic, but the critical points of our health system have also been exposed. Drawing on the lessons learned during the COVID-19 pandemic, it is important for the Union to strengthen its health policy and security framework to increase preparedness and better meet the medical needs of the European citizens. The European Parliament, and in particular the ENVI Committee, as committee responsible for public health, has been on the forefront in this regulatory process. During the first lockdown in April 2020, Parliament adopted a resolution calling for a coordinated action to respond to the pandemic and more solidarity among member states. One of the results of this commitment is the adoption in record time of the first autonomous European Union for Health program already in force to help member states to strengthen their health system and support actions to address inequalities in health. Moreover, we're working tirelessly on the 3 proposals of European Union Health Union package, which includes important reforms such as the new proposal to better respond to cross-border health threats, and the proposals on reinforced mandates for ECDC and EMA, which will have direct and indirect bearing on the issue accessibility, availability, and affordability. Let me also stress that just on Tuesday, plenary voted in favor of the agreement on the Union Civil Protection Mechanism with a reinforced budget in the order of 3.3 billion. This is an important instrument which will allow the Commission to support member states in disasters and an emergency response. And this week, we have also adopted the agreement on the 95.5 billion euro Horizon Europe program, which again puts research on medicines and medical devices very high on the agenda, notably by focusing energies and resources in our fight against cancer. And the third point, the pandemic has also deepened the already existing problem of shortage of medicines. In September, the European Parliament adopted a resolution on the shortage of medicines, how to address an emergency problem, with strong recommendations to prevent a shortage of medicines and mitigate their risks. 2 of the biggest challenges highlighted in the resolution are the European Union dependence from third countries for the active pharmaceutical ingredients and the need to increase coordination at the European Union level to ensure availability. Our important recommendations contribute to the adoption by the Commission of a comprehensive pharmaceutical strategy for Europe last November. The ENVI Committee is now working on own initiative report, and I will be presenting my draft report in committee at the end of May, but I can already mention some key points of the report. Preventing shortage and boosting European Union production are only 2 of the areas that need to be addressed to ensure accessibility and availability of medicines. It is also important to strengthen member states' health system capacity and sustainability to ensure universal access to healthcare and medicines. A thriving and technically advanced European healthcare industry and a competitive research community are vital. This requires an ambitious, clear and up-to-date regulatory framework, as well as dedicate resources for science and health research. So let me conclude. During this year, the first pillars have been laid in the construction of the European Union of Health, with the COVID-19 vaccines strategy, the strengthening of the ECDC and the EMA, the creation of the ERA and its incubator, the new state a stand-alone European Union for Health program, the European Beating Cancer Plan, which together with the Pharmaceutical Strategy for Europe. So start the decade of health for Europe, reinforcing not only the economic, but also the social dimension of the European Union. On behalf of the MB committee, let me assure you that we will keep on building on these first important pillars, continuing to keep public health and patients' needs at the top of the European Union priorities. Thank you very much.
In the name of the Minister of Health, we end this opening session. We are now proceeding with the introduction to the conference, and I give the floor to Infarmed's President of the Executive Board, Rui Sancivo.
Esteemed Minister of Health, Professor Marta Temido here as President of the EU Council of Health Ministers. I would like also to greet the Director General of WHO, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, and also the Commissioner of Health, Madam Stella Kyriakides, and the Member of the European Parliament, Madam Dolores Montserrat. Dear colleagues, dear speakers, dear participants. It's also a great honor and privilege to welcome you all at the 3/8 conference organized by Infarmed on behalf of the Ministry of Health under the Portuguese Presidency. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all the speakers of this conference, representing stakeholders from patients, consumers and health professionals, to wholesalers and the medical device and pharmaceutical industries, and the colleagues from all the agencies from the Member States, the European Medicines Agency and the European Commission. We sure hope to meet in different circumstances, as we would be truly delighted to welcome you in person here in Portugal, in our beautiful Lisbon. We are living quite challenging times. However, we are all now quite used to these tools, and I'm sure we will have a very productive and fruitful conference. We are now more than halfway in the Portuguese presidency, and this is the moment for us to come together and discuss the challenges regarding availability, accessibility, and affordability of medicines and medical devices. We need to address this in an integrated way, in an integrated, sustainable way, in the spirit of European solidarity, and leave no one behind. Over the past months, we have promoted the dialogue and cooperation to enhance knowledge, trust, confidence and transparency between all the actors in the pharmaceutical area in order to strengthen public health in Europe. We in the Member States have undertaken these actions in a particularly challenging context. We all have been at the forefront of the battle against COVID-19, together with the EMA and the European Commission. Despite the hard times and all the strains, we have all come closer and rise to the challenges. In this sense, our conference aims to give a renewed momentum to the discussion on how to address these long-standing topics that have been on the agenda of those with the highest responsibilities in the European pharmaceutical policy and look into the future to a post-COVID pharmaceutical and health sector. The conference program has been designed bearing in mind the need to promote a multi-stakeholder forum, allowing the debate to continue on the subject of accessibility, availability and affordability of medicines and medical devices, particularly the challenges of managing this trinity in a balanced way. That is also our aim during the 2 days of the conference. The topics we are about to undertake are vast and can look daunting. The wide audience that we have gathered today at this conference will surely contribute to set the direction of travel to develop these pillars and identify concrete measures. As you are probably aware, we wish for today's debate to inform on collaborative approaches, define priorities and policy options that can be translated into concrete actions that can be embedded in the Portuguese proposal for Council conclusions on access to medicines and medical devices, and of course on the Pharmaceutical Strategy implementation plan. We aim ultimately to contribute on promoting health at EU level through a larger and better cooperation between the different national competent authorities and stakeholders in the EU, namely in the area of medicines and medical devices. I can assure you that Infarmed, with its integrated scope of competences, remains fully committed to constructively participate and collaborate on the development of a model that would reinforce the EU regulatory framework as required while focusing on the needs of health systems and patients. We have to be persistent in our collaboration and firm in pursuing our objectives. I can only wish that we continue our work towards the goals and ambitions set for a stronger health sector with convergent approaches. I also hope that we overcome the pandemic very soon and are able to meet again face to face. Let me give a very brief overview of the program that we are about to start. So we'll start with a panel on the availability of medicines and medical devices, and I'm pleased that to have my colleague Christa Virtumer-Hogg, the head of the Austrian Medicines and Medical Device Agency and also chair of the management board of the EMA, to chair this session, where we'll have also the president of the European Commission and the EMA. Then we will have a block of parallel breakout sessions. So in order to deepen some of the issues related to this topic, to look into solutions to the issues that have been mentioned. And this will be chaired by my colleague Kristin Rodzep, the head of the Estonian Medicines Agency. Then we will continue moving to the accessibility part, and then we will start with the session, which will be moderated by my colleague Karl Broig, the head of the German Institute of Medicines and Medical Devices, BfArM, and we will start with the presentation on the joint EMA strategy for 2025, and then we will also deepen the discussions with a number of parallel breakout sessions. And we intend to conclude continue with a specific session on medical devices, another important, very important element for our health system, and has been addressed very clearly in the previous speakers. And this will be chaired by my colleague, the head of the Medicines and Medical Device Agency from Spain, Maria Lamas. We will end the conference tomorrow with two panels, one dedicated to affordability of medicines, firstly with an introductory panel, and then with a round table where we will have all the stakeholders. And this round table will be chaired by my colleague Marcel van Rij from the Pharmaceutical Department of the Ministry of Health. So this is how we have structured the program, and I would like, of course, to invite all the participants to take an active role in these discussions. Before I give the floor to the first panel, chaired by Christa Virtumer-Hogg, allow me to just convey a number of thanks. So I would like to thank enormously all my colleagues from other agencies and different departments of the Ministries of Health, the EMA and the European Commission, for managing their time and sharing with their experience and contributions. I'm most recognized to all representatives of the different stakeholders that will be along the sessions. And of course, I would like to wholeheartedly thank my colleagues, the presidency team, for their devoted work and close collaboration and support in organizing this conference. And of course, I would like to thank very much the Minister of Health of Portugal for her support and for honoring us this morning to open and address the meeting. Thank you, and take an active participation in the meeting. Thank you for being with us.